Have you ever made one mistake that changed your entire life? Imagine rushing through traffic, trying to get to work while worrying about your little daughter waiting in the car, only to arrive a few minutes late and lose the job that keeps food on your family's table. Now imagine that same night, when the person who destroyed your life is stranded alone in the pouring rain, and you are the only one who stops to help. Most people would have driven away without looking back. But sometimes, the greatest acts of kindness come from the deepest pain. And one unexpected decision can change two lives forever. Before we begin, if you enjoy heartwarming stories that restore your faith in humanity, please take a moment to subscribe to Be Kind Always, give this video a like, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories that remind the world kindness still exists. Now, let's begin. David Carter was a hardworking single father living in Chicago. Every morning before sunrise, he woke up to prepare breakfast for his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Since his wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness, David had become both father and mother to the little girl. Every day was a balancing act between work, parenting, and trying to give Lily the happy childhood she deserved. David worked as a project manager at one of the city's fastest-growing technology companies. The company was led by its famous CEO, Victoria Reynolds, a woman admired for her intelligence but feared for her strict rules. She believed success came from discipline, and she had one policy everyone knew by heart. Anyone who arrived late repeatedly would be fired, no exceptions. For nearly 4 years, David had been one of the company's most loyal employees. He rarely took a day off, worked overtime without complaining, and always delivered excellent results. But life doesn't always follow a schedule. One rainy Monday morning, Lily woke up with a high fever. David rushed her to a nearby urgent care clinic before taking her to school, but the visit took longer than expected. By the time he reached the office, he was 15 minutes late. As David entered the building, he could already feel the worried looks from his co-workers. His manager quietly asked him to report directly to the executive office. Victoria Reynolds sat behind her large glass desk without looking up from the paperwork in front of her. "You were late again," she said calmly. David nodded. "I'm sorry. My daughter was sick. I had no one else to take care of her." Victoria finally looked at him. "I understand your situation, Mr. Carter. But policies exist for a reason. If I make an exception for one employee, I must make it for everyone." David's heart sank. "I've given everything to this company," he whispered. "Please don't do this." Victoria signed a document and slid it across the desk. "I'm afraid your employment ends today." David stared at the termination letter with tears filling his eyes. He thanked her quietly, packed his belongings, and walked out without another word. That evening, David tried his best to smile while making grilled cheese sandwiches for Lily. She noticed his sadness immediately. "Daddy, are you okay?" He forced a smile. "Everything will be all right, sweetheart." But inside, he had no idea how they would pay rent next month. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, David drove to a nearby convenience store to buy medicine for her fever. Heavy rain poured across the city, making it difficult to see the road. As he crossed a lonely highway, he noticed a luxury black sedan parked on the shoulder with its hood open. A woman stood beside it, soaked by the rain, trying unsuccessfully to wave down passing cars. Vehicle after vehicle sped past without stopping. David slowed his truck. When he looked closer, his heart skipped. It was Victoria Reynolds. For a moment, anger filled his mind. This was the woman who had taken away his job only hours earlier. He could keep driving. No one would blame him. But then he remembered something his late wife used to tell him. Kindness shows who you are, not who the other person is. David pulled over. He grabbed an old rain jacket from his truck and walked toward Victoria. "Looks like you're having a rough night," he said gently. Victoria looked up in surprise. "David? She looked embarrassed. My phone died. My car suddenly stopped running. I've been standing here for almost an hour. Without saying another word, David examined the engine. Years earlier, his father had taught him basic car repairs. After 20 minutes in the pouring rain, he found the problem. A damaged battery connection had caused the engine to fail. Using a few simple tools he always carried in his truck, David managed to reconnect the cable. Try starting it now. Victoria turned the key. The engine roared back to life. Relief washed across her face. I don't know what to say. David smiled. Just make sure you get home safely. Victoria reached into her purse. Please let me pay you. David shook his head. No. Sometimes people just need help. He turned and walked back toward his truck. Victoria watched him drive away through the rain, unable to stop thinking about what had happened. The next morning, she couldn't concentrate on work. She replayed yesterday's events over and over in her mind. She had fired a man who was struggling to care for his little daughter. Yet when she needed help most, he had shown her nothing but kindness. For the first time in years, Victoria questioned whether her leadership had become too cold. She asked the Human Resources Department to bring her David's employee file. As she read through it, she discovered glowing performance reviews, letters of appreciation from clients, and records showing he had volunteered countless hours mentoring younger employees. Then she noticed another document. An emergency contact form listed only one person. Lily Carter. Age 6. Victoria quietly closed the folder. That afternoon, she drove to David's modest home herself. David answered the door, surprised to see her standing there. Victoria took a deep breath. I came to apologize. David remained silent. I built this company believing rules mattered more than people. Yesterday, you reminded me that compassion matters too. She handed him an envelope. I'd like to offer you your job back, with a promotion, flexible hours, and paid family leave. David looked down at the letter in disbelief. I don't understand. Victoria smiled. You showed kindness when you had every reason not to. That's the kind of person this company should never lose. Tears filled David's eyes. Lily peeked around the corner and smiled shyly. Victoria knelt beside her. You have an amazing dad. Lily nodded proudly. I know. Over the following months, David returned to work under a new company policy that supported parents facing family emergencies. Other employees finally felt comfortable asking for help when life became difficult. The workplace slowly transformed into one where success was measured not only by profits but also by compassion. Victoria often shared David's story during leadership meetings, reminding managers that every employee carried invisible struggles outside the office. Years later, David would say losing his job had been one of the darkest moments of his life. But choosing kindness instead of bitterness became the decision that changed everything. Because kindness has a way of returning when we least expect it. It doesn't erase pain overnight, but it plants seeds of hope that can grow into something far greater than we imagine. So the next time you have the chance to help someone, even someone who has hurt you, remember David's story. You never know whose life you might change, or how that single act of compassion might come back to change your own. In a world that often feels divided, kindness remains one of the greatest gifts we can give, and it costs nothing to share. Keep choosing kindness, because even the smallest act can create a ripple that reaches farther than you'll ever know.